So a little bit about myself. I have a whole bunch of pictures of myself. I grew up in lots of different countries, hence my interest in culture. I studied ecology, hence my interest in complex systems like organizations. I studied animal behavior, hence my interest in human behavior. I expected a few laughs for that one, but anyway, it's a biologist joke, I guess. I became a programmer after studying, and very soon I run into all the trouble we have with software development. So I tried to find a solution on my own. I became a project manager, a lead programmer, got involved with architecture, and finally I discovered Scrum. And it was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one. This is solutions, and since then I haven't looked back. And I actually switched from becoming a programmer to becoming a full-time Scrum Master and discovered really the essence of what drives me, which is helping people. So that's also the reason why I like to give presentations. So today I would like to start with a question. So every time you see a slide like this, it's not really for you, it's for me. So I don't forget to actually ask the question. So I'd like you ask all of you to just log into Mentimeter. Go to the website, which you see on screen. Type in the code, and then my beautiful assistant, Sirian, he's going to be managing everything from the background. It's a little bit like in WandaVision. It looks like I'm doing all the magic, but he's actually doing the magic. I'm just for show. So I'm sharing my my Mentimeters just so you can also see the results. You should see them on your own screen too, but just in case you haven't been able to log in or so.
Need the code. Let me. Paste the code to you, like 5297761. Yeah. And yeah, this is the part where we need to improvise because it does not share your screen. So I will share my screen so you can all see the real-time response.
Oh, that's cool because then I can see everybody in the room. Cool. Yeah, so I'm seeing some really recognizable results responding to change, bureaucracy, avoiding bureaucracy, transparency, flexibility. I'm seeing some which I'm not going to go into. By the end of the meeting, you'll realize why not. Flexibility. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I've noticed, and I kind of pick it up with some of these questions is somehow when people ask what is Agile or start talking about Agile, they're usually talking about how to do Agile or why we do Agile. If you look at it if you look for what is Agile on the internet, the best results is Agile is an iterative methodology, blah blah blah, and what I've come to realize is that I think there's quite a bit of a risk in the focus we tend to give to the why and the how with Agile, because we lose focus on the implications. And I have a very good example. I was reading the newspaper a few years ago, and it was a story about a young person in a small village, and he wanted to get to another village really fast, and somebody just lent him a car. And promptly, that young person created havoc in the village and drove the car into a ditch. So when they went to find out what the hell had gone wrong, it turned out the guy didn't have a driver's license. And that's a little bit what I see happening with Agile a lot, with Scrum. So we just tell people, here's the Scrum guide, and good luck. You want to go fast? Fine, just use Scrum. And we forget that there's a whole body of knowledge involved in doing Agile. And it often gets people into trouble. So I'm going to get the presentation back on screen and pass to my next slide. I think that the best place to find out what Agile is the Agile Manifesto. Makes absolute sense. But one of the things I've noticed with the Agile Manifesto is that if you look at it, it's extremely vague. You have stuff like something over something, gray areas. In my experience, managers and the people who really have the power to decide to go and do Agile, they want proper solutions. They're not going to give up control over their company and the processes they have in place to something as vague as everything which is on the Agile Manifesto. In fact, what I've often realized is that people just look at them and they're waiting for you to get on with it. I get the feeling that they see them more like marketing slogans, and they're just waiting for you to get on with it and give them something they can get their hands on, something to implement, something they can measure, something they can really have the feeling that they're doing something about it. So where does that feeling come from? That people have this need to have concrete solutions. Well, I think it has a lot to do with the way we are as people. I'm showing this guy called Taylor. He was active in the late 19th century, and what he did, he started using empiricism and semi-scientific techniques to try to analyze companies and try to improve the way they work. And his approach was not terribly successful. It became obsolete quite quickly. But that whole idea of treating an organization as a kind of a machine which you completely control and design, it's something which has become really ingrained in our society. We are completely used to having an elite management who basically tells us how to do our work. And that goes hand in hand with the fact that we are naturally, we are almost designed to work with processes. So I did an experiment with my kids when I have about a half year ago, just to test how they deal with a new process. So first I asked my oldest daughter, who was 5 years old at the time, to use a hammer to bang a nail into a piece of wood. And I took pictures. And I wanted to take a picture of a kid in a very unhandy position, trying to achieve that task. Well, my 5-year-old, she did it, and she looked like an expert. So then I turned to my 3-year-old and asked her to do it. This is my 3-year-old. I held my breath for most of the photo shoot, especially when she started holding the hammer above her head and really plunging into the into the nail. But the point I'm trying to make is that developing a process, even a process as simple as banging a nail into a piece of wood, is something which we're innately designed to do. You give a kid a nail, a piece of wood, and a hammer, and they'll start playing around with it, and they'll keep at it until they can do it so perfectly that it suddenly becomes boring. And I think that combined with the focus we have on improving things at the company level, that is something which has become very natural for us, and that has given us a lot of success. I mean, this diagram, this picture shows a factory where they build cars, and this all wouldn't have been possible without that ability to improve and manage processes, and everything around us. The fact that we've sent someone to the moon is all thanks to this ability we have. At the same time, this picture shows something which I find really interesting, and it's the fact that software development, why haven't we been able to automate it? And my conclusion is that we've reached a point in our history as humankind that we've really reached the maximum that we can get out of that approach of using processes. So we need to change the system. And the thing that happens when you change a system is you really have to find a completely new way of thinking about things. And that is the first point I would like to make today, that I think that Agile is a fundamentally new way of looking at things. And we have to completely change the way we think. So I'm showing a picture of 4 theories, 4 fundamental changes. In English, we call them paradigm shifts. And in every one of them, you really have to adopt the new way of thinking to understand the point the author is trying to make. So I'll take Charles Darwin. I think most of you are familiar with him. He was the inventor, discoverer of evolution. I tried to imagine that you would want to explain how chimpanzees and people are related using a creationist way of looking at things. It doesn't make sense. You have to find kind of different explanations than what you see in reality. It gets very confusing. The same thing with Einstein. Einstein talking about bending space. Before Einstein, we had Newtonian physics. And for Newton, everything was perfect. Everything was rules. And time didn't change. And Einstein really said time varies. And that was such a fundamentally new way of looking at the world that the only way you can understand what Einstein was trying to say, if you adopt his view of the world. So looking back at the Agile Manifesto, what I think is that to understand the way we have to think about to do Agile properly, we have to learn to think in that new way. And I think that the Agile Manifesto is full of clues and ideas of how we can achieve that. For example, have you ever noticed that the word iteration doesn't come, you don't find it anywhere in the Agile Manifesto? All those processes that we use, which we do thinking that it's the Agile way of working, there's no mention of it in the Agile Manifesto. What I also find very interesting is that the first rule, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, it's literally telling us it's not about the processes and the tools, it's about people and interactions. So what I would like to do now is have a brainstorm. I hope that with the things I've been saying, that I might have triggered some ideas, some inspiration in your thoughts about Agile. And what I would like to do now is do a conversation cafe. So Syrian is going to help me out. He's going to put us all in different breakout rooms. And I want you to think about the question you see on screen. What is the essence of Agile? Together in the room, choose a person who's going to be the host. The essence of the host is that he is the person who's going to enforce the rules, the guidelines, which you see on the right. I want you to take turns, take 1 minute each to answer the question from your own perspective. And after that, take 10 minutes to discuss those answers and try to gather insights and think about the patterns that you see. And after that, we will get back together and share our insights. And for the host, for the conversation cafe, it's really important to encourage people to suspend judgment. So it's not about who's right. It's really just about sharing ideas, respect one another, try to really understand the different ideas which are being expressed. Look at it as a source of inspiration, and speak from the heart. Let your enthusiasm take over. Oh, and try to keep it short so you can make the most use of the time you have. So Syrian, did I explain it properly, clearly? Any suggestions? Any questions from the audience? Oh, great.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
One question. Erik. Hey, I just wanted to, so there is an open discussion, and then, in the open discussion, then we need to come to a conclusion, right?
Not necessarily a conclusion. Try to find patterns. I mean, afterwards with the what we're going to do when we get back all together is we're going to have a Mentimeter where you can fill in an open answer. So it's the fun thing about trying to reach a consensus is that you're going to really investigate your different ideas.
Yeah, just making sure.
Okay. And Richard, you state I'm unable to join a room. Is it because I haven't started a room or because you have audio issues or something else? In that case, I will remove you from the room. Audio issues. Okay. Do you want to listen to them? Yes, please. Okay. So in that case, we'll have 15 minutes, actually 14 minutes, and you get a 1-minute warning. Do not press leave room because you have that extra minute anyway. So we'll see you back in 15 minutes, and Erik and I will hop in separate rooms and just tag along and listen along as how does that? As fly on the walls. All right.
Have fun.
Bye bye.
Bye.
We have 2 more. Cedric and KL. Cedric has joined. KL still joining. I'm going to pause the recording.
This is Zakia.
Sorry, I will leave my Zakia on. I think my picture is much better.
You had a much better discussion than we had, probably.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Erik, everybody's back. The floor is yours again.
So I'd enjoy it. Lots of insights, I hope. We've prepared a Mentimeter so that you can share your insights with the group. So I think Syrian is going to take over now again.
Yes, let me share my screen.
Yeah. First one.
Yeah, Jihong has joined us, and that's the sound of cooking. I recognize it. I muted you, Hong. Because people who don't know Jihong is a colleague Scrum facilitator as well. And if he's not training, he's eating.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was muting myself because I was actually eating.
So some interesting insights coming in. That's a very sharp one indeed. You can be doing Scrum but not be Agile. Or you can actually not be doing Scrum and still be Agile. I'm kind of assuming that somebody forgot the negative there on one of the two sides.
No, that's something that I added, and
in my opinion, you can use Scrum, you can be doing Scrum, but but you are Agile, so you cannot be doing Agile.
Yes.
That's Agile is a mindset, and Scrum or any other thing is a framework that you can use. But without a mindset, you can use whatever, but it will not have the same results.
Yeah. Yeah, I see quite empiricism, incremental delivery.
There's this guy I know. It's actually funny you mentioned it, Julius. This guy I know who has written a book about the agile life. It's been like every 4 years he starts to work, and then he iterates on, okay, what do I want, what do I like, takes some time to get retrospective, like don't work for half a year and then figure out, okay, so what's the next step for me, what do I like. It's written a really cool book about it. Let's see if I can find it somewhere. I'll share in the chat as well.
Nice.
We're stuck at 7 insights. Does anybody have anything else to add? Maybe a number of people are busily typing away.
Yeah, if you take over the screen, if new information pops in, then I'll share with you.
Oh yeah, cool. Good idea. Yes. There we go. So before I continue, I hope you all enjoyed a conversation cafe. For the people who haven't used it before, I hope you learned something new which you can use at your work. I'm a big enthusiast of conversation cafe. I use it a lot in retrospectives to have my teams talking to team members talking with each other. But anyway, I want to continue my presentation, and I'm going to dive into one of my favorite illustrations, which for me symbolizes a lot of what Agile means to me. It's the Iceberg of Ignorance. I imagine that some of you might have run into it before. And what this image illustrates is the fact that is the visibility of problems in a company. So the whole idea is that the work staff, the people on the work floor, they're the ones who see all the problems. And the higher you go up in management, the less you see what the problems are. Now, I'm being a Scrum Master, I've experienced this firsthand. And it was quite a bit of a problem, because the result is that you always have a time lag solving problems, if you're actually able to solve the problems. But what I find intriguing about this image is it doesn't only apply to visibility of problems. It also applies to finding the right solutions for those problems, how to organize yourself at different levels. So basically, it symbolizes the distance there is between the elite, who, according to Taylorism, are the ones who have to have all the knowledge to design the organization. Yeah, they're the architects who see the whole machine as the whole organization as a machine, and are trying to organize the processes in it to make it the most as effective as possible. And what I think is that in our modern times, we have reached a situation in our economy where we've reached the maximum competitive advantage which we can achieve by having that elite designing the company. And we're being caught up by the fact that change happens very quickly, and the world is getting more and more complex. And especially with software development, it's the companies who are moving the control down that iceberg who are getting up ahead. And for me, that is the essence of Agile. It's basically the handing over of control from the previous elite in such a way that we involve the whole company. And by involving the whole company, we create an organization where the learning ability of the organization is used to full capacity. Every single person in that organization is helping to improve the company. And I think that is, if you think about it, it's a very, very powerful idea. And in essence, I think that all the techniques that we use, like empiricism, like iterations, they are tools. And for me, Agile is not about using the tools. The tools are just there available. It's about who uses the tools and making sure that everybody participates in using those tools. And I hope you realize that is also what I'm trying to explain when I mean that we have to look for a completely different way of looking at things. In Scrum, I've played a game with my teams often. It's the famous ball game. I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but in that game, you basically have the group and they have to pass the ball around, and you count the number of balls that they pass around within a specific time. And every time I play that game, the team, they reaches a point where they're getting better, but really, really slowly. And they're getting really good at doing what they're doing, but they're not showing a lot of improvement. And I tell them, I usually make up a number, and I tell them, I did this 2 weeks ago with another team, and they did 3 times as many as iterations at what you were doing. And that is the moment when the team starts thinking, not about how they improve the system they're using at that moment, but how they have to change the system to reach a new level of improvement. And I think that is the big difference that Agile offers. It's not about improving the previous system of empiricism, of control, of process driven, looking for the optimizations in that way, but completely turning the system on its head and involve everybody in the company to find the best ways of using the processes. And to achieve that, we focus on the mindset. A lot of you said also at the beginning that Agile is about a mindset. Agile is about collaboration. It's about people, and that is what I think for me personally is the most important conclusion that I've made about Agile. It is about people, and it is about finding ways of empowering them to be able to take control of the processes and to be able to use them effectively. Because you all know that you can't just tell people go into a Scrum. You have to teach them this new way of thinking. And that is what I think that all those management slogans in the Agile Manifesto are doing. They're trying to make us see how we can encourage people to reach that point. What I also find very interesting is that things like empiricism, have you ever tried to force a team to do empiricism? I have a lot of experience with that because I'm working at a company where I've had a bit of kind of an Agile transition at the higher level, and my team is really stuck in the old waterfall attitude. And I've been working there for 5 months, and I'm running into a very big fat wall because these people are stuck in the old mindset. And I try to tell them, explain to them really simple concepts, such as, for example, use the velocity of the previous sprint so that you can plan the new sprint effectively. And these concepts are not being understood. And it's because of fear. It's because they're stuck in the old mindset. And the only way I'm going to change, to make a change so that it start adopting all those techniques which are available, is by helping them to develop the Agile mindset, the growth mindset. And I'm not going to go into what growth mindset is. Most of you probably have read something about it. It's a word which encompasses an open mind, a new way of looking at yourself as a person who can grow and develop new techniques. If you're interested, Carol Dweck She's the person who coined this concept. If you Google it, you'll find a lot of information about it. But anyway, going back to for example, empiricism, I've noticed that one of the best examples of a company which is extremely agile is usually a startup. And what is the most interesting thing I always notice about startups, especially startups which are just starting off? They don't have any processes. They don't do empiricism. They don't do iterations. It's just a bunch of guys. And the only thing they have is they have the motivation, they have the confidence, and they have control. And surprising enough, those are the three basic principles that Daniel Pink talks about in his book about drive, about intrinsic motivation. And there you go. That's another bunch of marketing slogans. They're just words for a lot of people, but they're trying to tell us something about the way we as human beings are made, and what is going to make us into the kind of people who can share the vision of the company and realize together the whole potential of the company. So getting a bit closer to home, we're with the Scrum facilitators. We're talking about professional Scrum. The Scrum values. I've been a Scrum Master for 10 years. I can promise you it's never about the process. If it was about the process, my job would consist of printing out the Scrum guide, giving it to every member of my team. And if the process was the solution, then we would have agile teams who are able to work with the Scrum process effectively. My job is about the Scrum values. It's about getting people to respect each other, to work together, to have commitment. So I was talking about the team I'm working with now, Stuck in Waterfall. It's all about respect, about feeling a safe environment, about having the focus to work together. So that is the challenge. And here you have it, more marketing slogans. I'm going to stop calling them marketing slogans, because it's not fair. This is the essence of Agile. These are the words which are here to show us the way. And finishing off with another concept which we're all probably aware of: simple solutions to realize complex results. I use this image a lot. I'm a biologist, so of course it has to be something with animals. But basically, biologists have made models about the way these birds make those beautiful shapes in the air. And in the models, what they have is basically a pixel. And they've written algorithms, and the only two rules you have to give one of those pixels is go as fast as your neighbors and keep the same distance from your neighbors all the time. And that is those two simple rules is all you need to create those complex shapes in the air. And for me, that's so expressive, because all those marketing slogans, which sound so vague, those are the simple rules. Those are the simple things that guide us in everything we do. And as long as we don't understand that, what we are actually trying to do is program a perfect path for every one of those birds. And if there's any programmers among you, you can imagine what kind of a challenge that is. It's basically impossible. Even if you manage to after hours and hours, maybe months of programming to get one of those shapes going, you just got one. If you program the simple rules for each of those dots, you have no control of what's going to happen, but you will end up with all kinds of shapes. You can never have thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to finish up with a picture of one of my teams, one of the teams I'm most proud of. This was in a company I worked, and when I saw my team sitting around like this, that was the moment that I said to myself, yes, now they're really working. And in the background would be the boss, and he would come tap me on my shoulder, and he would say, why aren't they working? Why aren't they working? They're wasting time. Again, a change in the mindset. It's getting the most out of the people. It's about having that collaboration. It's about people and interactions. And the coding, the computers hanging around, those are just tools. That's not the important stuff. So summarizing, these are my 3 points. Agile is a fundamentally new way of thinking, and it's really hard. And I have to deal with that too in my work. Every time you have the tendency to find a process to solve a problem, you have to think about it. It's like, wait a minute, I'm just jumping to the easy solution, and take the time to think about what else is going on. It's about a mindset. Well, some of you already mentioned that. It's about changing the way we think. And last and not least, it's about sharing control and sharing the vision. It's about interacting as a complex organism to become a learning organization. So that was the end of my presentation. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Well, I have a question. Yeah. So what's the essence of Agile in your how would you answer that question?
Oh, that's what those 3 conclusions.
Okay. Yeah. So it's okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
So for me, this is the essence of Agile.
Yeah.
For me, every conversation about Agile should start at this level.
Okay. Yeah.
My question is about the amazing field image. Initially, I saw as natural field, and then I heard about programming the 2 rules as fast as you can, as close as possible to each other. Is that natural picture, or is that programming generated image?
This picture is a real picture. It was taken by I think it's a Danish photographer. And I for another presentation, I have an image, a video of this, which I should have used for this presentation, but I forgot. But if you look on YouTube, you can also find the generated images, which are generated by computers, and they're surprisingly lifelike. It's quite actually very cool to see. Of course, I'm a biologist, so I've got my head is different.
Got it.
Any other questions?
Yes, hello, this is Brianna. I do have a question. So I'm very excited to hear you're a biologist and you work in the world of Scrum. As a geographer, like, this makes me very, very happy. Now, you mentioned you don't feel it's necessarily about the process, and having the same amount of experience, I've been working in, Agile as a Scrum Master the same amount of time. I have a very different view. Like, I have teams that are diehard developers, and they don't care about Agile whatsoever, but if we focus on DevOps and process, I get better contribution and better commitment to Agile without actually acknowledging it. So I'm kind of curious. The question is, how did you come to that determination that it's less about process than it is the Scrum values?
I think that's a very interesting question, because I've worked with teams where any discussion about Agile and feelings and the soft skills, which for me are implied by my conclusions, is a no-go. And you can only talk with these people in the terms of processes. But what I'm trying to say is not that the communication about Agile should be using soft skills, but it's about a mindset in the sense that the moment that you have a DevOps team that is able to take control and ownership of the processes and shape them in order to reach the best results with them, that's when they're being Agile. And I don't even care if they're a bunch of nerds who are lousy communicators, as long as they're all collaborating in their nerdy ways. I mean, I've been a programmer, so I use nerd as a positive word. I'm a nerd myself. But I've worked in a team where we had what's autism? Is that the English word?
Yeah.
Well, we had a person who was a diagnosed autist, and we hired him because in Holland you have this law that you have to have people in your company, and we had to find a way of communicating with them. And even though it was really process driven, it's the fact that you're taking responsibility for it and you're looking for ways of involving him and making him part of the team. And I thought that was awesome. And look, from a psychological perspective, from a soft skill perspective, it was quite strange the way they communicated, but it was really effective and they figured it out themselves. And that is the essence of what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean, Brianna?
I do. We've come to the similar conclusions then. And as an individual who has multiple individuals who are actually autistic, I understand. They're great at the process, actually brilliant at, apologies, I got background noise. But they're brilliant at the process. They're brilliant at delivering, but they're not necessarily the people you put in front of the customer.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And you're going to be communicating on a much higher functional, you have to be very specific in your points of how you want executed. Yeah.
I'm glad that you bring this up, because it's very hard to express that what I'm trying to say is that it's also our responsibility as agilists to stop getting stuck in all the rules and all the theory, let loose and start accepting that the only purpose we have is to encourage people to develop that mindset. If you have a team and they decide that they don't want to do Scrum or they want to fiddle with Scrum and change it, it's their thing. And as a Scrum Master, of course, you have to always balance the risk of it going very, very wrong and try to encourage them to consider possible outcomes which might not be the ones they expect. But the bottom line is eventually it's that they are the ones who have to find it out. And eventually the form of Scrum that they might develop, it might be completely against what you believe in, but if it works, that's it. Any other questions? Thanks, Brianna.
I have one question. I'm still thinking about go as fast as your neighbor and keep the same distance. In the Scrum teams that you leaded, what kind of challenges did you encounter to keep the same distance and make sure that they go as fast as their neighbors?
I think I wouldn't apply it literally to teams, but what I think is important in that imagery is the fact that we all go fast, but we go fast at in different things.
Yes.
And it's I think what is really important about that imagery is that feeling of trust between the birds. Yeah, there is always the reason why these complex patterns arise is because they can't stick to the rules 100%. There's an essence of chaos in it, so some of the birds make mistakes. But there's not a single bird out there going like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? You're spoiling our pattern. They simply adapt to each other, and they have faith in each other. They have respect for each other. They accept that everybody is doing their best to stick to those rules, and then they find a way to stick to it together. And that's what for example, going back to the colleague I was talking about before, he had a very specific way of working, which had to do with his situation. And instead of trying to make him more social of stuff, now the team just accepted that and tried to find a way of making him participate in the team, which in the end resulted in a completely different way of participating, but a lot of respect from the rest of the team for what he was able to do. It's getting the best out of each other and encouraging and supporting each other to do that.
Yeah, in an organic kind of way.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussions nowadays about Scrum, about the rules and what they mean, and I find that a lot of those discussions are very much guided from that old mindset of control, of rules, and I think that's also part of the problem. That instead of spending so much time discussing Scrum and what does it mean, no, it's like let's try to respect the ideas of the Scrum framework and try to use them to our advantage and find out during that process what they're actually really about.
And if I may add one more thing about this is, we as Scrum Masters, we also have to like trust the process. We give them boundaries in which they can self-manage, and then just have faith that we are talking about professionals who the outcome is the right outcome. Like when we started this meetup, okay, the persons who are here are the right persons. It's just like also in our work as Scrum Masters. I think that's also one of our job, that if we do give them the correct boundaries, we should trust the process that the outcome is the correct outcome, even though it's not the same as we thought before, but it's always the correct outcome. If it's not the correct outcome, then if you're not happy with the outcome, then the boundaries were not correct.
Yes.
I would also, based on the discussion that I heard between Brianna and all you, to say that rules are not necessarily bad, right? In the example of the swarm of birds, the rules are very simple. For an individual, they're very easy to do, and they give a great aggregate effect that would not be possible otherwise. You can imagine, for instance, traffic rules, right? There's a very simple rule that you drive on the right side of the road. And yes, individually, you might not comply with those rules because you don't like it. But if you do, it makes much greater things possible in a very easy, cognitively low way of working, right? Stick to the rules and you get bigger things possible with large groups of people, at least, right?
I like this example that you have. Just like, what do you do when you see somebody driving on the wrong side of the road? Do you get angry and just no, this is my side and you're done complying with the rules? Or are you being agile and trying to see, okay, how can we still collaborate together and get home safe?
Yeah, but at some point, if a group really wants to improve, they might devise some self-imposed rules as a group, because that will make their life easier going forward, right? So rules per se are not a bad thing, I would say. Rules imposed by someone else are, of course, not so good, right?
No, I think that's a very interesting point, because like one of the discussions you often have nowadays is, as soon as you have agile self-organizing teams, you don't need management anymore. But I disagree, because I think that management has a very important role in the whole agile process, by trying to find the simple rules which can give teams direction, and there is a synergy in there that it's. I read a book where they described there was someone who had done research on the way Toyota organizes itself as a self-learning learning organization, and the conclusion they made is Peter Senge in the fifth discipline, and what he said is that basically Toyota is a learning organization in which the workforce is doing the learning. They are given guidelines and freedom to do all the difficult learning, and management is basically coordinating that learning. And the rules that they do devise are based on best practices and are designed to improve the collaboration between the teams. And that way you get a very interesting balance and synergy between the different levels of an organization. Any other questions? I'm really enjoying this. We have another 20 minutes.
I don't have a question, but I just want to share this thought about the picture of the iceberg, and how I really like the conclusion. It's always about the mindset, shared control, and shared vision. Why the iceberg? Because the iceberg picture was talking about the problem known to staff is 100%. What I found, I was thinking in my head that I have experience in offshore management where the management, I have been instructed to withhold information, maybe due to politics, maybe due to finance budgeting. It was so bad that it was problem not just at the bottom, it's problem at the top, and everybody start with holding information, and the workers are now experiencing the symptoms. And where the worker teams now need to second guess the director, why is he doing that, and VP is doing that. And it was not as simple as iceberg on top and down, it was multi-directional. And it's very complex. And when I think about this, I realized that at the very end, when we talk about shared control and shared vision, the mindset is like, it's like the only way, hopefully, to untangle this chaos one at a time, to build trust.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you make me think of this conversation I had with my boss, who's a quite high-level manager. And I was talking with him about the Fifth Discipline, the book about Peter Senge. And I read that book because I was interested in systems thinking. And my boss said that knowledge is obsolete. It's something from the 90s and it's not used anymore. And I found that really amazing because I realized that the only thing that stuck with people about that book is that systems thinking. But what Peter Senge actually talks about in that book is 5 pillars, which are required for a learning organization. And systems thinking is only the one discipline which coordinates the other 4. And to my surprise, the other 4 disciplines are all about people. It's about yourself as a person and how you grow in life. It's about shared visions. It's about the pictures of reality that we have together. And it's about how we learn as a team. And I was fascinated by it because this is a person who worked with Deming, and they really looked at the whole problem of a learning organization from the corporate leadership perspective. And I found lots of parallels with the perspectives that we as Scrum Masters working from the bottom up have using Agile and Scrum. So I see that from all different levels of our society, we're all heading towards that same perspective. So I feel that Agile is not just about our work; it's a way of life, and I really see it as I mean, I do Scrum with my wife. We have our own project at home, and we do that for cleaning up the house. We have a Scrum board on our fridge. It's not really Scrum; it's more like Kanban, but it's a fun way of structuring our thinking and working together.
That's a great observation. There is, if I hear all this, it is very difficult to have people adopt a new mindset that is so opposed to the traditional mindset of top-down management and bureaucracy, etc. Just by talking to them, right? The best way you can get them going is to let them do it if they are willing to do so. And for that, you can give them a framework to give them some starting position. So eventually, just by letting people doing these small behaviors, the agile mindset can emerge in some people. But there is no way, as Erik already said, you cannot tell people to be empirical. You cannot tell people to be adaptive. You cannot tell them to be open, right? Ideally, you can just start with small experiments, letting them experience it, hopefully get some good results.
Yeah.
And take it from there. But yeah, it's impossible to do it top down as a knowledge transfer, let's say, right? This is impossible, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think that is the reason why Scrum and SAFe even, but for all their faults and all their problems, they at least offer some basic recognizable structure, which helps us Scrum Masters to make people realize the essence of Agile. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Peter.
It is also not something for people who are impatient like me.
Definitely. I think the servant leader, or a leader who serves, for me that symbolizes that always having patience and always trying to find ways of helping people help themselves without telling them. Any other questions? Wick, you're looking very thoughtful.
I always do, but I have no questions.
Well, if nobody has any further questions, then I think I'd like to thank you all very much for being here, for listening to me ramble and on and on. And of course, I'd also like to thank Syrian very much for allowing me to giving me the opportunity to share this all with you. I had a lot of fun. And to finish it off, this is the first time I do this presentation, so I'm very curious to find out what you thought about it. So we prepared a short evaluation. Syrian is going to take over from me right now, and I'm first going to ask you to give me a score, and after that you can leave all kinds of comments. Yeah, and if you want to talk more about this subject, I'm on LinkedIn. Just send me a join request, and we can have a chat.
Yeah. So if everybody goes to Mentimeter again and uses the code, then you have this thing. How valuable was this meeting to you and to others? This is actually a very nice technique by Jürgen Appelo, just to measure, and this is something that I did when we had physical meetings. After a few meetings, just pop out, was it valuable for me and for the others, and just get like some reflection and see if we actually need a meeting or not. And then we have follow-up. Let me share the correct screen so we can see the, where am I? Ah, here it is. Yeah. So, and this is funny enough also enables in Menti. So this is how it looks like.
Cool.
Really, really happy. And the next question is more about feedback for Erik. Some tips and tops.
Do we have to give feedback now, or can we do it later?
I will leave it open, so you can do it later as well. No problem. And just let me share the screen again, because I want to do a little thing like this. And I want to thank everybody for joining the meetup, and also at the same time invite you to join our Slack community. So if you have, you can use the how to say, the QR code, and I will also share the link on how to connect as well. If you don't have the QR code, we will send the presentation, including the video. Let's see, I think it's valuable to put on YouTube, and we will send the presentation to you as well, and also invite you for our next upcoming meetup, which is the SF Community Huddle. That's a quarterly meeting that we have organized, and that's only for the Slack community members. Yeah? Otherwise, you don't have the link to it. Yeah, and we are working on some new meetups as well, and one of them is that's going to be my favorite. It's going to be a battle between Miro and Mural. battle of the whiteboards. That's going to be amazing. I'm working with 2 other colleague facilitators, not Scrum facilitators, but just regular facilitators. And it's going to be awesome. When it's done, then we'll share it on Meetup as well.
March 16th, wasn't it?
The idea is that it's March 17th, and this one is March 16th. So you get to see us like twice in a week. How cool is that? Right.
Oh.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and it was fun. And Erik, thank you for inspiring us. And let's see how valuable we all think this is. And looking forward to the feedback for tips and tops for Erik.
Yeah.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Erik.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Dank je, Erik.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.